So like all great superheroes, dogs have an origin story, and like those superheroes, that story will change depending on who tells the story. But what do we really know about the origins of our dogs, and what does it matter? It's commonly known that dogs descended from wolves, but how true is that, and what does it matter? Knowing where they came from can change the way we train them, can understand their behaviour a bit better, and really understand what they need from us. So does your dog descend from a wolf? Yeah, but probably not the one you're thinking of. We now know that the grey wolf and our dogs descended from a common ancestor. So you need to think of the grey wolf and the dog as not direct descendants, but as evolutionary cousins. Now, some traditional dog training techniques are based on the facts that dogs evolved from wolves and the study of grey wolves in captivity, learning from their behaviour and translating that to the dog. We have to ask ourselves, does that really make sense? Not only that captive wolves can behave very differently to wild wolves, but also these aren't the wolves that our dogs are descended from. And not to mention the thousands of years of separation between the two species. Now there's evidence that dogs have lived with us for thousands of years, possibly hundreds of thousands of years, but the oldest undisputed piece of evidence comes from Germany, and we can say this is definitely a piece of dog and not a piece of wolf, and this is 14,000 years old. And archaeological evidence shows that dogs have meant something to us. They've worked with us, lived with us, even been buried alongside us for thousands of years. So we have a rough idea of when, but how? Now that is quite debated. So there are two main theories. The first one being popularised in this book in the 50s. This is the cross-adoption theory, and in this book, Konrad Lorenz describes a group of Neolithic hunters who gradually learned to work cooperatively with wild wolves. In fact, in this early edition, he describes them as jackals, but then later changed his mind. Now, hundreds and hundreds of years later, a child finds a puppy. The tribe raises it, and that puppy grows up to help them hunt. Now, over the course of generations, these humans only let puppies breed that have the traits they like. They selectively breed for traits. And next we have the scavenger theory, which was made popular with this book by Ray and Lorna Coppinger in 2001. In this theory, our wolves weren't cooperative hunters, they were, well, rubbish-tip wolves. When humans stopped being nomadic and stopped roaming and started forming settlements, we stayed in one place and our waste stayed in one place and started to build up. This was easy nutrients for braver wolves. Over generations, we got used to each other. The braver wolves came in to live off our scraps. These became dogs, and the ones that stayed away, they remained wolves. So think of it, we see a similar thing nowadays with our red foxes. We've got the, thank you. We've got the urban foxes, the braver foxes that come into the towns and cities that are getting, well, tamer. Less afraid of humans. And then we've got rural foxes that we don't see very often unless we're driving out late. Okay, so when looking at both of these theories, you can find holes in both of them, but I kind of believe there's going to be a little bit of truth in each. But what's clear, whatever you believe, dogs did become who they are because of us, the selection pressures we put on them, whether you believe they're by accident or by design. Later dogs, the modern dogs, definitely are by design, selectively breeding for those traits. Even the ancient breeds, you can see how they would have been selected for tasks. And certainly in the last few hundred years, the more modern breeds of dog, we designed them for a task. Think of that spaniel hardwired to look at a hedge and think, there's a job in there somewhere. That collie who think, I need to control this environment and I can't control this environment. Maybe if your dog is barking at the front door, possibly, look at your dog's breed, have we selectively bred that breed to do exactly that? Now in more modern times we've taken these selection pressures and we have taken the less functional traits and made more desirable ones for aesthetics possibly. And sometimes it's not always to the benefit of the dog. So what can we learn from this? Well, we can learn that our dog, the modern domestic dog, our companion animals are just that. They're not wild animals. They are bred or have evolved for connection. You can also look at your dog and think, what was my dog actually bred for? Was there a purpose to it? Is there something in their life they're missing that they're genetically hardwired to do? Me as a dog trainer, most of my professional life is finding out what that was and giving that dog an outlet. Before we move on to any kind of behavioural stuff, let's actually, well, let's scratch that itch. Understanding where our dogs came from will help us treat them in a more realistic way and a more, well, a kinder way. Thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Which theory do you lie on? Were our dogs created more as scavengers or cooperative hunters? Also, if you want to dive a little further, go back to basics on helping our dogs be more satisfied, check out this video here next.